Thank you for joining us for today's message. We believe we can go anywhere in the world from right here in Marque, Texas, and reach people just like you. If you'd like more information about Abundant Life, please visit ALCC.org. You can also text the number below if you would like to support the church financially. Be ready for a powerful message that's going to impact your life.
But Acts chapter 3 tonight, and this is a story that is one of my favorite stories in the Bible, and I believe that, I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago or so, Catherine might have spoke out of this passage of Scripture, but I promise it's going to be a different message if you were here that Wednesday night. But I felt like this whole week is something that I've been working on and studying on, and then Darian, which is our youth pastor at the church, him and I work in youth ministry together, and he was talking about expectation, and I've been preparing this message, and it makes so much sense in this, because it says one day, Peter and John were going up to the temple at the time of prayer at 3 p.m. Now, a man who was lame from birth was being carried to the temple at the gate, which was called Beautiful, and where he was put there every day to beg from those going into the temple courts. When he saw Peter and John about to enter, he asked them for money. And Peter looked straight at him, as did John. Then Peter said, "Look at us." And the man gave them his attention, expecting to get something from them. Expecting to receive. He looked up expecting to get something. Darian was talking about your expectancy in life. Everything you have in your world is tied to your expectation, what you expect to happen. Every one of us, we all have different thoughts. We all have different dreams. We have different ideas of how our life is going to go. And the reality of life is everything is tied to your expectations. Your joy and happiness, your disappointment and anger is all tied to expectation. Because what happens when you step into a situation, you either expect that it's going to go good or it's going to go bad. And a lot of times our expectation is tied to what? Our expectation is tied to our past experiences. So what do? We take things that have happened in our past and we filter our future through what happened in our past. If all you've ever had in your past are bad relationship after bad relationship after bad relationship, you've been hurt time and time again. When you step into a new relationship, what do? You filter somebody's love through somebody else's anger. And so all of a sudden now, somebody who's trying to love you, you can't see the love because you're filtering it through something bad that happened before. A lot of times the anchors that we drag in life cause us to miss out on what God is trying to do in our future. Why? Because we run a filter on our expectation. Things that did or did not happen will shape our lives. It'll shape our now and it will shape our future. But here's the thing, if we give God our full attention, He can shift our expectancy. He can shift how we see and how we experience, and God can shift how we expect to receive. Not just from Him, but from everybody else. A lot of times in life, we step into situations expecting the best, but preparing for the worst. You step in hoping that everything's going to go good. I don't know if you're like me. Every time I get ready to go into a conversation that I'm a little concerned about having, as I'm getting ready that morning, I'm in the shower, getting ready, washing my hair, and I'm going through in my mind every way that conversation can turn bad. I'm probably the only weird one in the room. But I'm thinking about every possible scenario in my head of how that conversation is going to turn bad and what I'm going to be able to say to counter how it's going to go bad. Again, all of y'all probably not like me, but those are the thoughts that are going through my head. I get ready to go play golf. I'm going in my head about all the bad shots I'm going to hit. And I'm not going to hit any until I start thinking about all the bad ones. What happens? Our expectations shape who we are and what we do. And so watch, if we stop focusing on our lack and what's not working, all of a sudden we have the ability to stand up. All of a sudden we have the ability to rise above all of the pain and all of the struggle and all of the hurt in our lives, and we can get out of our situation, right? So here is a man lame from his mother's womb. He is lame. He's laying on the ground, can't walk, can't move. And John and Peter are walking by, and he says, yo, I need some money. Help me, help me. And John and Peter are walking by. And he said, man, I need something. And Peter and John stop. Peter says, look at us. And the man looked up expecting to receive. Then Peter said, silver and gold I do not have, but what I do have I give you. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, rise up and walk. And taking him by the right hand, he helped him up, and instantly, look at your neighbor and say, instantly. Instantly the man's feet and ankles became strong. You got to think about this for 1 second. He took, I don't know how old this guy was. A lot of people, I've read commentaries that some people say he was in his mid-30s, 35, 37, 38 years old. Imagine this, that you have a man, let's say he was 30 years old, 35 years old, 35 years of those legs never one time being used. Why? Because he was lame from his mother's womb. And you got 35 years of atrophied muscles. Never being used. His legs would have been as big around as this. And here's the deal. In an instant, it says, when Peter grabbed his hand and pulled him up, it took 38 years of never doing anything good. And in one moment, 38 years of struggle were erased. And God lifted this man up. And it says he stood up. His ankles became strong. And he jumped up to his feet. And he began to walk. Then it says he went with them into the temple courts, walking and jumping and praising God. When all the people saw him walking and praising God, they recognized him as the man who used to sit begging. They noticed. They looked around and said, hey, this dude used to sit over there. He used to be the guy that was laying on the ground and couldn't walk. We've been seeing him for 30 years. And he's the man that used to sit on the outside. But now he's on the inside. Man, you need to look at your neighbor and tell him, don't get used to me like this. Don't get used to me like this. I'm changing. I'm about to get better. Don't look at me like I'm the same person I used to be. Don't get used to me. This man used to sit there. Don't get used to me. I'm about to be 2.0. I'm about to be Josh 2.0. I'm about to go to a new level, do new things, be better than I ever was before, and so are you. You're about to go to another level. Don't get used to me like this. Stop thinking I'm going to always be the same, because I'm about to go to another level. I'm about to be 2.0. They said he used to sit. This is the man who used to sit by the gate beautiful. And they were filled with wonder and amazement at what had happened to him. Now watch this. While the man leaned on Peter and John. Okay, verse 11. While the man leaned on Peter and John, all the people were astonished. And they came running to them in the place that was called Solomon's Colonnade. Now look, what Peter then began to do, I'm not going to read it just for time's sake. What Peter began to do is they came to him and they said, yo, this was the dude that was lame a minute ago, but now he's up walking. What happened? And Peter began to preach to him. And he began to talk to him about how God is a healer and God sent his son Jesus to the world. And Jesus died and rose from the grave and amazing things can happen. And you would think, man, that's awesome. And then Peter got thrown in prison. And then he got beat. And then he got hurt. It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing sometimes what happens, and we'll get to that in a second. But here's the deal. This man was in a low place. He was down. Peter and John, at this moment, they were up. We all go through times in life where we're down and we're up. I don't know if you've ever been up before. Anybody ever been up before? You're like, man, life is good. I'm up. Anybody ever been down before? Not been the best days. You ever been up and down at the exact same time? You laugh, but I have. I think you're laughing because you have too. Somebody called me the other day, this is probably a month and a half ago, before the time change. And they said, hey, you want to play golf on Saturday? I said, yeah, that's fine. I said, it's got to be early though. I can't play in the afternoon. They said, that's fine. They said, we got a 6:15 tee time. 6:15 in the morning. I didn't know the sun was up at 6:15. I was like, man, I said, 6:15. They said, yeah, it's the only time we can get on early. And I said, man, I'm down for it. I said, I'm down to play at 6:15. He said, boy, you can't be down. He said, you better be up. He said, that's early time, you better be up. I said, you know what I mean? I said, I'm down, I'm up, whatever you want me to say, I'm there, yeah. And we were joking about it, but I thought about that, man. How many of us at some point in our life, we've been down, we've been hurt, we've been reaching to somebody saying, help me. But watch this, how many times in our life have we been up and we've been reaching down to help somebody else? But how many times in our life have we been up and we've been down at the exact same time? We're reaching down to help somebody else, but at the same time, we're reaching up saying, God, help me, every single time. Watch this, because that is what God created us to do. God created us what? To be where we are, to reach down and pull people up, but at the same time be reaching up to pull God down into our lives. Saying, God, I need help. God, I need you. God, I'm powerless without you. God, without you coming to me, I can never go to them. God has called us in every situation. No matter if you are down today or you are up today, we have to find ourselves in those situations and learn how to be both up and down. Look at your neighbor and say, you look like you're up today. Look at your other neighbor and say, you look down, whatever, I don't know. We got to stretch. We got to stretch out. We got to stretch out. We got to stretch to help people. Pastor Howland was preaching this message. He said, everybody say, stretch. Been saying that for 20 years. I'm going to say it for 20 more. Why? Because we got to stretch. That's what God did, right? That's what God did. Jesus came to the earth, and watch this. Every time he spoke to his followers, what was he doing? He was stretching them. He was putting them in situations that they were not prepared for, that they were not capable of doing by themselves, and he was saying, you're in a tough spot, so what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to stretch. Watch this, when he fed the 5,000 with the couple of loaves and the couple of fish, what did he do? He stretched a little bit. When he puts you in a situation and you say, God, I don't know how I'm going to do this. When David fought Goliath, he stretched him out a little bit. You got to understand that every area of your life where you don't understand and it doesn't feel like, man, God, I don't know if I can do this. Good. That means God is stretching your ability. And watch this. The only way you get strong is if you stretch. That's the only way muscles get strong. I was reading about muscles when you work out at the gym, if you ever go to the gym. If you work out at the gym, when you lift weights, what you're doing is you are stretching those muscles so much that they begin to tear. And as those muscles tear, when you go to sleep that night, they begin to repair themselves. And as they repair, they get bigger and stronger. That's how it works. You want to get stronger, you got to tear some stuff. You got to stretch a little bit. It's great. But watch this. When we feel like we are not prepared, we must understand that we are actually more prepared than we think we are. God will never put you in a situation that he has not called you to already overcome. God never puts you somewhere that he hasn't delivered you from before you ever stepped in the middle. No, God knows exactly what he's doing. And so the Bible says that Peter and John are walking. And I love the Bible because so many times, instead of just giving us a description, it gives us a demonstration. Instead of saying, this is what God is saying, this is how it works, it shows us. Why? Because in my opinion, showing is better than knowing. Showing is better than knowing. Peter and John walk into the temple at the 3rd hour, the hour of prayer, or at the 9th hour, whenever they're going at 3 o'clock. They're going to the temple. They're going to pray. How many times have they done this exact thing? Probably 1,000 times. They've probably, if we're being real, passed over this man 100 times before, and they just stepped over him and kept going. But something changed on this day. I don't know what changed. I don't know what made the difference. All I know is on this day, God was ready to do a miracle. I don't know if it was because John and Peter expected something to happen or if the man reached up and he expected. All I know is expectation pulls on the power of God. What if your greatest opportunity for a miracle is something that you've been stepping over on a daily basis? What if the greatest opportunity for God to work in your world and do something miraculous for you, what if it's something that you've been stepping over, a dream that you've been stepping over, a hope that you've been stepping over, an idea that you've been stepping over day after day after day saying, oh, no, it can't work. No, that's never going to happen. No, not to me. It might happen for somebody else. What if God was trying to use that thing that you've been walking over to cause something miraculous to happen? Peter and John had probably stepped over that man 100 times. Peter and John were crazy. They were interesting, right? They're like the dynamic duo in the Bible. They're opposites, really. John was a little bit more reserved. He was a little more quiet, a little more afraid of things. Peter was the opposite. Peter would like barge into situations. He would blow past people. He would just speak his mind and apologize later. I mean, I feel like the Bible sometimes looks at it and it's like John is the disciple Jesus loved and Peter was the disciple that Jesus had to tell to shut up, right? Like, that's kind of how it works out. And so like these two are like the dynamic duo coming in like Batman and Robin, and they're walking in, and I don't know what they were talking about, but as they're walking to the temple, they walk past a man who is weak from his womb. From his mother's womb, this man is weak. He's got a genetic difficulty. We all have genetic difficulties in our life. Now, I'm not talking about you got genes that are messed up. I'm talking about you are messed up from the beginning. Every one of us has got stuff that we're dealing with. Every person's got either ideas that you're dealing with or hurt that you're dealing with, pain that you're dealing with, struggle that you're dealing with, addiction that you're dealing with. We've all got stuff. There's nobody in this room that's perfect, nobody in this room that's immune. Here's the deal, but there's also nobody in this room that is alone in the fight. You say, man, I got sin in my life. You do too. That's amazing. We all do, but here's the deal. We're not alone. Man, I got failure. Me too. We're not alone. I got struggles. Me too. We're not alone. And that's what separates us from everybody else. That's what makes you better than the world. Here's the deal. It's not like we go into the world and say, hey, we're better because we're so amazing, because we are not so amazing. He is. The only thing that makes us better than them is that he's with us. But here's the thing, he would be with them as well if they would just ask. If they wanted him, now I don't know who they is, but if they wanted him, if they wanted God like you want God, then their world would change too. But the reality of it is you've got to ask. That's what it all banks on. Every person can have a great life. Every person can have that experience with God. He is desperate to give it to us. And here Peter and John go. A man is weak from his mother's womb. Watch this. He's in an ugly condition in a beautiful place. Dealing with an ugly condition, but he's in the most beautiful place. He was put at the gate to beg, the gate that they called Beautiful. It was named that because apparently it was really beautiful. It's one of the prettiest gates coming into the temple, and thousands upon thousands of people would pass by. And he was put there by people. They carried him to that gate and laid him down. I don't know who these people were. I don't know if they were friends of his. I don't know if they were people that he had to pay to put him there, that they got a cut of what he got. I don't know who these people were. I don't know their names, don't know their occupations, don't know what they look like. I know one thing about them. The one thing I know about these people is that they brought this man as far as they could. That's as far as they could take him. They couldn't take him any further. They took him as far as they could. So what happened? In order for this man to have a miracle, it required either someone new or something new. We all in our lives have people who can only go so far. It doesn't make them bad people. It just makes them people that can only take you so far. And in order to go to the next level, you've got to surround yourself with different people. In order to go to the next level, you got to surround yourself with different people. I'm going to bring it back to golf again. I don't know why. I'm talking about I don't get to play much anymore. Me and Pastor Cindy were talking the other day, and she thinks I'm a whole lot better than I am, which is cool because at least somebody does. But I told her, I said, I'm terrible. She says, I don't think so. I said, well, you haven't seen me play. So, but here's the thing. When I surround myself with bad golfers, it makes me feel good, but I don't get any better. I stay bad. But when I get around really good golfers, when I get around really good players, which I have a place that I play where these guys are really, really good. And when I get around them, it changes something. Like I'm still the same person, but I play better. And I don't know what it is. And then I get around the guys that I play with, and they're terrible. And so I just play terrible. And that's how life is, though, right? Like if you want to be better, you've got to get around better people. If you want to have money, you got to get around people with money. If you want to have a good marriage, you got to get around people that have good marriages. If you want to get a good job, you can't be hanging out with people who are smoking pot in their mom's basement with spaghetti stains on their sweater and their thumbs have calluses from playing video games all day. If you want to have a better life, you can't do that, right? Let's get real. If you want to talk about marriage help, you can't get around people who have only been in broken relationship after broken relationship and they're trying to give you advice. If you want to get advice on getting a new car, you cannot take advice from the guy driving his bicycle that's got a bent wheel and it's driving like this all day. You can't do that. You got to get around people that have something better, have something more. You can be a big fish in a small pond and you will always be that big fish in the small pond. But if you want to go farther, you've got to be a little fish in a big pond. Because what do they say about goldfish? The bigger the tank, the bigger the fish gets. You put them in a bigger tank, they get bigger. You put them in a bigger tank, they get bigger. Why? Because they'll adjust to the size of their environment. And you are no different. If you get around people that are greater than you, if you read things that bend and stretch your mind, all of a sudden you will begin to change and things will begin to happen for you. But here's the deal. This man had friends that could only take him so far. Some of us have to get past getting help and start to get healed. One dropped like a bomb and just was quiet. We got to get past getting help because it's easy to get help from people. There are some people that all they want to do is help you stay where you are. So what do we have to do? We got to get past getting help and get into getting healed. Some people can get in the way of our healing. Not because they're bad people, they just want to help you stay where you are. Because as soon as you get past them, then you don't need them in the same way anymore. So they're cool with the relationship you've got. I mean, I think that's good. Me and you, we think that's good. Everybody else doesn't get it. Peter and John come up to this man and he wants one thing, but he gets another. Right? He wants one thing. He's just looking for money, but God's got something so much better. But what if God can use one desire of yours and he can give you something totally different? But it's really something you want more, you just didn't know you wanted it more. What if God can use one thing that you're hoping for and he can bend it to get you exactly what you need? This man could not walk, but he knew where to be. He knew to be in the right place at the right time. He couldn't walk there, but he knew how to get there. He said, you got to get me to that place. Why? Because he believed that his destiny was tied to his place. My God, I think this is good. I don't know. I think this is good. I think it makes a lot of sense, right? That our destiny can be tied to a place. That watch, God can take us and we can get to a certain spot. And when we get to that spot, all of a sudden, our destiny explodes in front of us. God did that for me. My destiny was tied to a place. This was the place my destiny was tied to. I had opportunities to go elsewhere, somewhere else that in the world made a whole lot more sense. To everybody else, it made more sense. But I felt like my destiny was tied to a place. And so I got there. I thought my destiny would take 5 years, and it didn't. I thought it would take 10 years, and it didn't. I thought it would take 15 years, and it didn't. The way that I experienced it, I thought, man, it's going to be here, but it wasn't yet. And thank God it wasn't yet, because I wasn't ready for it yet. But watch, every person has something that God is trying to do in your life, and watch, God will use those desires to get you where you needed to go. He had an issue. He had an issue, but watch, he located himself in the path of life. Could have told these people, man, take me to the beach and let me sit in the waves. Take me to the bar so I can drink a margarita. He could have said, take me to the movie theater so I can watch a movie. He could have said anything. You're like, they don't have movie theaters, whatever. But what did he do? He was in his lowest place in life, but he got to the house of God. He got around people. He got to the right place at the right time. But here's the thing. He wasn't there for the right reasons. He wasn't there to get healed. He was there to get money. He wasn't there for the right reasons. So we always want to say, man, you're going to go to church for the right reasons. A lot of people come to church for the wrong reasons. Let's get real. There's a lot of people that come to church just to look around and try and hook up with somebody. Trying to get a date next week. They're looking around saying, man, I wonder if anybody's coming this week. There's people that do that. Watch, there's people that come to church just to listen to the pastor speak so they can find one thing they don't like that he says, and then they can dwell on it for a week. Say, nah, there's not people like that. There are. He was in the right place, but he had the wrong motivation. But here's the deal. God doesn't care about what your motivation is. As long as you're in the right place, God will hammer his way into your life. Look, the enemy, the Bible says that the devil, the word is diablos, and what that word literally means is it means like an arrow that's looking for one little chink in your armor, one little space that he can start to penetrate, and then he starts hammering that one space. But watch, the enemy's like that, but so is God. All God needs is one crack in your world, one crack in your anger, one crack in your bitterness, one crack in your brokenness. And if God can find that one little space, God will hammer home how good he is and how much he loves you and how much he cares about you and how great your destiny is and how good your world could be. And all of a sudden, once you see that light in the midst of the darkness, that's all it takes. And God begins to speak to you. Watch this. He speaks to you in an instant. This man was healed instantly, like oatmeal. Like, y'all ever eat that instant oatmeal, like the strawberries and cream or whatever? Like, that's what I get, right? Like, I'm a kid still. But I was working out with a trainer one time, and he told me, he said, man, you got to start eating still cut oats. I was like, all right, whatever, I'll eat them. I'll eat oatmeal. I like oatmeal. I was thinking it was going to be like strawberries and cream. And so I went and got the still cut oats, poured them in the bowl, put the hot water in them, because that's all you do with the oatmeal I eat. You stir it up for 30 seconds, and then you can eat it. Still cut oats are it's like eating gravel. It's terrible. And so I started eating it, and it was like gravel in my mouth, and I was like, what is this? And I looked at the package, and it was like, you're supposed to like soak it overnight and then cook it for 30 minutes. And I was like, who has time to soak overnight and cook for 30 minutes? This is stupid. I wanted 30-second oatmeal. That's what I wanted. I didn't get it. So I threw it away and ate the peaches and cream. Like, life got better, but how many of y'all know this is where this dude was? It wasn't like Peter and John looked at him and was like, hey, man, come back tomorrow, and then we'll talk to you for 30 minutes, and maybe God will heal you. He said, no, man, I'm going to pour some hot water on you. Get up, let's go. And all of a sudden, instantly it said, he was healed. This man looked up and said, I want change. And Peter was like jingling some change in his pocket. He's like, I got something better for you. He's like, man, I've got what you want, but I don't got what you want. He said, I want change. He said, good, I want change for you too. And grabbed him and pulled him up. He said, man, money is not going to fix your problem. Money is not your solution. We need to hear that message. Money is not your solution. You got to go to the root of it. You got to say, what is going on in my life? What kind of change do I need? He wanted one kind of change, but he got something totally different. He came for money and he got change. Watch this. Healing is free, but obedience is costly. Peter's payment for this miracle, his payment for following God's plan, his payment for changing this man's life. You know what his payment was? I told you earlier, Peter got thrown in prison. He got thrown in jail. That is what he got as payment for the miracle. Change will cost you something. And a lot of us, the reality of the challenge will outweigh the desire for change. The reality of the challenge that we're facing in life, the reality of standing up to the enemy, the reality of standing up to our family and our friends when they call us crazy, the reality of that challenge outweighs the hope and necessity of the change. But here's the thing I want to leave with you tonight. Progress is worth the price. your progress is worth the price. Because the grace of God did not just cover his feet. The grace of God did not just change his weak feet. It changed his entire life. Some of us want the strength, but we don't want the stretch. We want the strength, but we don't want to have to stretch to get it. This man asked for change, and Peter gave him change. And it says he got up. And it says, leaping, he stood up and he started to dance. He started to dance. He got up. He started dancing. He started leaping. He started walking. And Peter in verse 11 started preaching. In your life, we're switching back and forth between you being Peter and you being the man laying there needing help, because sometimes we're up and sometimes we're down. And here's the thing, in your life, you're going to have ups and you're going to have downs. But my question and my challenge to you this week is, in your life, what are you going to do with the opportunities that God gives you? What are you going to do with the opportunities that God gives you? Because this man was down and he reached up for change, and God said, I've got an opportunity for you to really change, and you got to stretch out and get that opportunity. But Peter was the same way. Peter was standing there and he was reaching up to God saying, God, I need you. But he was reaching down to this man saying, I can help you. What will you do with the opportunities that God gives you? What does it say? It says in verse 10 that this man, after he was leaping and jumping and dancing and life was good, the man leaned and held on to Peter and John. Peter and John are standing there, and this man is leaning on him. He is holding on to Peter and John, holding on to them. And I thought that that's kind of strange, because he could leap and he could dance and he could jump and he could walk, but he was leaning and holding on. Why could he leap and dance and walk and jump, but he was holding on? What if his mentality hadn't yet caught up with his reality? What if God healed his legs, but his mind hadn't caught up yet? What if God healed his legs, but he was still sitting there thinking, man, this can't be real? I was watching the Masters golf tournament was on today. I'm talking about golf today. The Masters was on today. I love it. It's one of my favorite times of the year is the 4 days of the Masters golf tournament. And a guy named Dustin Johnson won. And he was sitting inside of the place called Butler's Cabin, which is where they talk afterwards. And Tiger Woods was there because he won last year. And so Tiger's going to put the green jacket on him. And it's a huge deal. And Dustin Johnson's there. And Jim Nantz asked him, and he says, hey, he said, man, we were talking on Wednesday about, man, this is every kid's dream that plays golf. Every kid that's ever played golf is hitting a putt saying this for the win at the Masters. Every kid that's ever played, I promise. And he said, man, he said, you were saying what a dream this would be. And he said, Dustin, how do you feel now after winning the Masters and Tiger Woods is going to put the jacket on you? How does it feel? He said, man, he said, I know that it happened, but it still feels like a dream. He said, I still don't believe it's real. I still feel like I'm dreaming. That's what this man was doing. His reality was, man, my legs are working. I can jump, I can walk, I can leap, I can dance. Everything is good in my body, but my mind isn't there yet. It still feels like a dream. Because sometimes our feet can be stronger than our minds are. And so we lean on things. God's trying to heal you. God's trying to deliver you. God's trying to change you. But you lean on people. You lean on things. You lean on substances. You lean on habits. You hold on to things that you used to need before you got change. You're leaning still. When this man got healed, it was instant. Instant healing, like the oatmeal. It's instant. He got saved. When you got saved, you became a child of God. It was instant. But my question to you is, can your mind catch up with your feet? Your mind has to catch up with what God's done. Because watch, God saved you, but until you think like you're saved, you're going to act like you're not. God healed you, but until you think like you're healed, you'll act like you're not. God delivered you, but until you think like you're delivered, you will act like you're not. There's a gap. And here's the thing, we've got to switch our attitude. We got to change the way we think and change the way we feel and change the way we act. And we have to get our mind to line up with what our new reality is. Your attitude is the new actual in your life. And that's where this man was. And I love it because Peter started talking about this man. And he used him as a prop, and he was like, look, y'all have seen this man before. You've walked over this man. You've flipped him coins. You've given this man change, but now he got change. And look at him. And he used him as a prop. He used him to preach his message. He used him as something that God can do. And I love it because at the beginning of the relationship, this man was using them. But at the end of the relationship, they were using him. He was holding on, staying in that position. It was almost like he was saying, I know I can walk, I just don't know where to go. Maybe you have felt like that. Maybe that's been your experience. Look, I know that I'm healed. I know that I'm delivered. I know that I'm saved. I know that I'm changed. I just don't know where to go. But my last thing to say tonight is, if you don't know where to go, you don't know what to do, you don't know the things to say, what did this man do? He hung on to Peter and John. If you don't know where to go, hang with the one who healed you. Stay where you are. Hang with the one who healed you. Hang with the one who changed you. There's so many people that God has changed their life, that God has switched their mind, that God has delivered them and healed them and changed everything, and then they bounce and go elsewhere. They go somewhere because, hey, I gotta go. No, you don't. You need to hang with the one who healed you. Stay where God healed you. Stay where God planted you. Stay where God put you. It's so easy to go, but it's sometimes harder to stay. And look, I believe that God is into working miracles as much or more today than he was in the Bible. And we see the stories in the Bible and we see what God did then. And here's the deal, God didn't stop doing that. He's still doing that today. He's just looking for somebody that will take the opportunity and they'll let God use their life. So I don't know today if you are reaching up or you're reaching down. But I'm going to ask you this week to do both. I'm going to ask you this week to reach up to God, to reach up to people, to reach up. If you need help, reach up because help is there. But I'm also going to ask you to reach down. Because no matter how bad it is for you, somebody else has it worse. Somebody else is dealing with worse. Somebody else is hurting more. And it's your job, it's your duty, it is your command by God to reach down and help others. That's what God has called us to do. What better commission is there than to help hurting people? Why does God heal you? So you can help others that are hurting. Why does God change you? So you can help others that need change. Why does God deliver you? So you can help deliver others. That's what it's all about. If we're not doing that, I think we're missing out on so much. It's so easy to come to church and just get a good message and say, man, this is great. I was listening to something earlier today that they were saying that in around Los Angeles, I think in this last year or sometime, that there was 13 trillion gallons of water that fell from the sky in rain. 13 trillion gallons of water. And they say LA and the surrounding area that it's always constantly in a drought, that they're worried about drinking water and they're worried about this non-salted water that people can drink and that they can use to sustain life in that area. And so they're having to ship in water from elsewhere. And some man that was talking was saying, listen, there's 13 trillion gallons that are falling from the sky. They're hitting the river and they're flowing into the ocean. And he said that water is literally going down the drain. You say, why are you talking about water in LA? We don't care about that. We're in Houston. Here's the thing. They've got all that water, but it's doing them no good. And what if, and again, I know y'all aren't like this, but there are people that just go to church and they hear it and they write it down in their notebooks and they get built up really good. But when they step out, it just goes down the drain. It doesn't do them any good. I don't want you to come to church and just hear a good message and come outside, high five somebody and say, man, that was awesome, and put some music on in your car and go home and never remember what we talked about here. No, I want you to come on Sunday mornings, Sunday nights, Wednesday nights, hear something that God is doing, and then go out and do what God is doing. That's what we're called to do, not to just learn, but to take what we've learned and do with it. That's what Peter and John did. They said, man, Jesus taught us this stuff, so let's do it. I don't know if they had walked over that man 100 times, and every time they did, Peter was going to do it, and he was like, no, not today, maybe tomorrow. Not today, maybe tomorrow, maybe tomorrow. And John was going to do it. He's like, nah, I'll let Peter do it. And they fought back and forth. They're like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know when we're going to. And all of a sudden, they saw this man, and boom, they pulled him up. And it changed his life forever. How cool would it be if you had a part at changing somebody's life?
To learn more, visit walterhallam.net. Here you'll find a list of resources to help you with your daily walk in Christ.